समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
When Defence Minister Rajnath Singh landed in Rabat, the capital of Morocco, which is, just a few hours ago, September 2025, it was more than just another high-level visit for furthering defence cooperation. It came alongside Tata Advanced Systems Limited, or TASL's, opening its first ever defence production unit in Africa, a milestone in India's outreach to the continent. In fact, Rajnath ji has inaugurated that. For New Delhi, Morocco is not just a partner, but a gateway to Africa and a foothold on the Mediterranean southern flank. However, beneath the headlines lies a more complex story. India's Morocco venture reveals both growing ambition and persistent blind spots of vulnerabilities. To make sense of it, we must examine three layers, or what I call three levels of analysis. First, the initiative itself and its irony. Second, Morocco's place in a crowded, multi-aligned defense ecosystem. And third, its role in India's Mediterranean calculus. Together, they highlight a larger point, that India must recalibrate its strategy. Now, in a world of plurilateral defense chain synergies and subsystem integration, bilateral gestures alone no longer suffice. Now, what do I mean by these complicated terms? I'll deconstruct later in the video. So first, the good and bad of building abroad. The Tata Advanced Systems, or TASL, Crystal facility in Morocco is historic. It's the first Indian defense manufacturing footprint on African soil. It adds to New Delhi's export records, from becoming Armenia's top supplier to delivering BrahMos missile to the Philippines and providing components to the US and France. And yet, the irony is striking. The very platform Morocco will induct, the Kestrel Wheeled Armored Amphibious Platform, or the WAP, remains largely unadopted by the Indian Army, which means that the Indian Army doesn't want it. The thing is, India's mechanized infantry still depends on Soviet-era BMPs, upgraded to BMP-2Ms with modern fire control and night fighting systems. Now, these are at best functional changes to what are extremely dated tracked vehicles. By contrast, the Kestrel is a modern wheeled infantry fighting vehicle co-developed by TASL and DRDO. Now, on paper, it even rivals the US Striker, whether it's engine power, whether it's mobility, and other features. And yet, India hesitates to use it while it wants to sell it to Morocco. Now, the paradox is telling: an indigenous platform that finds markets abroad, but not at home. And what it captures is a deeper problem, that India's armed forces' reluctance to induct homegrown systems at scale, often defaulting to imports or incremental upgrades. The Kestrel thus symbolizes both promise and predicament. Its innovation shackled by domestic indecision, and the situation continues. Now, the second level of analysis is how the minilaterals within universal multi-alignment are emerging. So, India's entry into Morocco should not be seen as a direct counter to Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, or any singular rivalry. Today's geopolitics no longer works through straight-line confrontations. Morocco exemplifies a new reality. In the age of universal multi-alignment of all with all, states gain comparative advantage by forging minilateral or plurilateral synergies through effective subsystem integration, most evident in the defense cooperation sphere. Now, let's consider Rabat's balancing act again. Now, as India's defense minister was in town, Moroccan Foreign Minister Nasser Bourita was in Beijing, advancing ties with China. This relationship has deep roots. It began with the 2016 joint declaration, followed in 2017 by China supplying Morocco with air-to-air missiles. Since then, Rabat has purchased the Skydragon 50 and HQ-9 missile systems, the TB001K combat drones, and multiple rocket launchers from Beijing. Morocco has also endorsed Chinese Premier Xi Jinping's global initiatives, the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative, and in 2025 confirmed its membership in the new International Organization for Mediation, a China-led body which is headquartered in Hong Kong. Now, the economic numbers are equally telling. China-Morocco trade hit a record in early 2025, with Chinese exports rising 20.4% year-on-year to now about $53 billion. China has been Morocco's largest supplier since 2021 and its third largest trading partner overall. After Morocco joined the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI, in 2024, multiple investment agreements have followed. Beijing now openly frames Morocco as its gateway to Africa. India, by contrast, lags far behind. Bilateral trade reached only $2.5 billion in 2024-25, skewed in Morocco's favor, which means that we run a deficit. Diplomatic contacts remain steady but lack economic heft. Let's go further. Turkey adds another layer of competition. Morocco is now a key customer of Ankara's defense industry. Rabat has inducted the Bayraktar TB2 drones in a $70 million deal with Baykar Defense, which is the Turkish defense company, announcing a Moroccan facility in 2025. Talks are ongoing for even the more advanced drones, the Akinci drones. Meanwhile, Morocco has signed a $50 million deal with Aselsan for the Coral electronic warfare system and requested a 200 Cobra II armored vehicles worth $136 million, with training and support included from Turkey's side. Ankara is also preparing exports of its newer Pars, Alpha and Altug 8x8 armored vehicles by mid-2025. Platforms Morocco will certainly be a natural buyer for. Now, in this crowded landscape, India's Tassel unit is a significant but a belated step. Morocco is not a binary partner but a hub where multiple powers are plugging in their strengths. So what do I mean when I say their strengths? China is bringing scale. Turkey is bringing agile manufacturing, and Pakistan is bringing linkages. By the way, Pakistan does joint exercises with Morocco amid other defense cooperation. And together, what they form are cost-effective, interoperable defense ecosystems. So the question for India is not whether it has countered anyone, but whether it can compete in this marketplace of plurilateral cooperation. At present, New Delhi's North African footprint is rather thin, and it is limited mainly to Morocco and Egypt, and with Algeria, it is at a nascent stage. Now, both Rabat and Cairo practice active multi-alignment. In such a scenario, if India sticks to isolated bilateralism, it risks being overshadowed. And now let's come to the third level of analysis, which is Morocco and the Mediterranean strategy for India. And this layer situates Morocco within India's Mediterranean calculus. Now, till date, India has strong partnerships on the northern Mediterranean coast, which means the European side, from Spain to France to Italy to Greece to Cyprus, although this cooperation halts abruptly at Turkey for obvious reasons. Now, on the southern flank of the Mediterranean, which is the North African flank, its presence is sparse. Morocco in the west, Egypt in the east, and budding outreach to Algeria form the main nodes. And yet, this flank is quite critical. Why? Because it links Africa to the Mediterranean and by extension to Europe. So Egypt anchors India's presence in the Suez Canal and Bab el-Mandeb. Vital but contested waters right now. Morocco, meanwhile, anchors the western flank, linking India to Atlantic approaches and complementing outreach to, other Indian engagement with Namibia, with Ghana and other coastal states. Now, if developed in tandem, which means together and in coordination, these nodes could form a dual-axis presence across the Red Sea and Atlantic, giving India a platform to project influence. But for now, the pieces remain disconnected and underdeveloped. So the question is how to conceive a competitive strategy. If India is to succeed in Morocco and beyond, in my opinion, two priorities stand out. First, embrace defense chain plurilaterals. India cannot afford a purely bilateral game when others are creating synergistic ecosystems. In Morocco, for instance, it should explore partnerships or synergies with countries like Israel or Brazil, as both of these are present in Morocco with their respective defense industries, and they are also partners to India. Now, in Algeria, for instance, India could leverage Russia's entrenched position to offer joint productions. The key is how to create cross-cutting defense chain synergy that could add value in competitive spaces. And second, focus on subsystem integration. Now, what do I mean by this? Because I keep repeating it a lot of times. The modern ecosystems thrive on modularity. Drones carrying foreign munitions, aircraft with third-party radars, and ships with diverse missile suits. China and Turkey excel at this. India, despite its capacity, has scaled subsystem exports only in a few cases, perhaps something close like a BrahMos. By focusing on adaptable subsystems, India can embed itself better in supply chains instead of selling one-off platforms or dual-use components. And so, watching closely, it is not just about Morocco. What is unfolding there reflects a global trend. As the US retreats as the dominant security provider, the vacuum left behind is not really filled by China alone, as often projected by a Cold War 2.0, but by a web of middle-order defense chains with complement and crosscut in an era of data and tech leakage. Now, this order values flexibility over exclusivity. Most states prefer hybrid models. I'll give an example. A Chinese jet co-produced in Pakistan equipped with Turkish missiles serviced locally in Azerbaijan. Now, such modular ecosystems democratize defense while multiplying interdependencies and allowing each side to capitalize on their strong points. So, India's challenge is not only capability building, but also imagination per se. For decades, it has aspired to be self-reliant and remains far from it. In today's hybrid order, its share remains negligible. Now, unless New Delhi adapts, which means moving from bilateralism to minilateral or plurilateral defense value ecosystems, from platforms or dual-use components to more agile and cost-effective subsystems, it risks watching others shape the very spaces it seeks to enter. Now, this discussion is far from done, and it doesn't end with Morocco. I will be back to decode this complex issue many more times. Stay tuned.